Hey everyone, I'm back from my massive Eternal card game sabbatical, for the time being at least, to do some deck tech on a deck that I've been building since I dove back into Eternal a few weeks ago. I'm calling it Protected Nightmare, and so far it's a brew. I don't see anyone else or very, very few other players trying to make the Nightmare work these days. And certainly no deck like this out there. It's carried me to Diamond 1 playing almost exclusively it this season from like Silver 3 or something. And it still, I think, is winning more often than not. So I'm just going to talk through it a little bit in the hopes of trying to encourage creative decks in Eternal card game. And then I'll talk through the logic of the cards that I have in here, and then I'll maybe play a few games just to show how it works. So the list that I settled on is blue, black, green. The blue and the black are obviously necessary because those are the colors of Recurring Nightmare. And by the way, the reason that I'm even making this deck in the first place is that Recurring Nightmare is absolutely awesome. I love that it is such a powerful combo card that at the same time is fragile. It's this intense glass cannon. So building a deck to make it work seems like an interesting challenge. I settled on green after trying out red mainly. The interaction that I tried to make work for a long time was, I liked all of the direct damage that I could get, but also I enjoyed the idea of putting a Steel Fang Chakram on a Recurring Nightmare and just having it bounce, having both elements of that combo bounce to your hand. But that is, of course, insanely expensive because you need to have 7 mana in 1 turn to even get that down. And I felt that the direct damage really actually wasn't all that relevant, even with great cards like Torch and the 1-for-2 that deals 2 damage to a unit and to a player. So I ended up trying out green instead, and that worked much, much better. So I'll show you the deck. As you can see, the mana curve is not great, but it's not a huge problem because you're just consistently playing your 3-drop over and over, and you want to have 1 and 2 mana left over after that. So you're not really wanting for 4 drops because ideally on your 4th turn, you're going to be playing a 3-drop and a 1-mana spell, or at least holding a 1-mana spell. So the central combo of the deck, I would say, is Recurring Nightmare and Protect. This is the main piece that green gives us. And the really great thing about this combo, obviously, is that it only takes 1 mana to protect Recurring Nightmare from almost anything. And when Recurring Nightmare bounces, it's going to keep the Aegis. So kill spells are not going to affect that particular copy of Nightmare after you've played Protect on it. So this 1 Protect turns into like a huge modification to the Nightmare that makes it way better. Flying Charge Aegis is just a much, much better card than just Flying Charge. And since it's only 1 mana as a fast spell, it just works so super smoothly. So that's the central thing going on here. This build currently affords 8 protections for Recurring Nightmare, 4 protects. I'm currently playing 3 backlashes, but take these numbers with a grain of salt. I'm still tweaking them a lot, trying to figure out where I want, what I want to have 3 of, what I want to have 2 of, and what I want to have 4 of. But yeah, so 7 or 8 ways of protecting the Recurring Nightmare. So you're pretty much never playing a Nightmare before turn 4. The only situation in which I do that really is if the opponent taps out, or if the only combination of mana they have up is something that can't destroy the Nightmare. Like I can't think of a card for example, like 1 white, if they only have white mana and only have 1 left, that can get rid of the Nightmare. The deck, this build, so I'll point out the other things that green gives us. So it gives us Protect. Paladin Oathbrook is pretty sweet in combination with the Nightmare. So if I play Oathbrook turn 2, say they tap down because they don't know what build I'm playing, and then turn 3, I get to play the Nightmare, attack. It's a 2-2, deals 2 damage to them, bounces to my hand. Now it's a 4-2. Next turn, I'm going to play it down. If I can get it through, I attack. It's a 5-3, bounces to my hand, and now it's a 10-3, as opposed to what would be a 4-1, I suppose. So Paladin Oathbrook really, really speeds up the action of the Nightmare. And Valkyrie Enforcer is just a fantastic card. The main thing that Valkyrie Enforcer does in this build, first of all, it frequently draws removal that people would be using on Recurring Nightmare. But the main thing that it does is actually gets rid of flyers. So I'll often play this on some generic flying card that to pave the way for my Nightmare to get through. And then also Harsh Roll, because we're very frequently going to be in a position where we have no units on the board and they have plenty. And then I have a whole bunch of cards that are part green, just because Omens came with these 2 phenomenal legendary cards and 1 great uncommon card for this build. I'm playing 3 Kothons right now because I can't afford the 4th, but as soon as I can get the 4th, I will. I'm playing 4 Inquisitor Moktos, which are just preposterously good. These things are just good things that fit into this deck, and they fit in very, very smoothly. Kothon in particular draws torches that would hit the Recurring Nightmare instead if Kothon weren't in there. So that's an immensely valuable purpose that it serves. And Inquisitor Mokto is just like an almost impossible threat to remove. They need to silence it. We have Protect to stop them from silencing the Inquisitor Mokto and getting rid of its revenge. So it just fits very cleanly into the build. And then High Wing Glider, I want to play like 1 or 2 of these because most of the time in, say, an opening hand, it's an absolute blink card, but there are games in which it just goes off preposterously. Like if they can't answer it and you're both down to a handful of cards very late in the game and you have like 8, 9, 10 mana up, this thing will get you just all the card advantage you need to pull out of there. So I found this a pretty valuable addition, but I'm not sure whether I want to go with 1 or 2 or something. Other than that, I'm playing just a ton of removal. And again, I'm tweaking these numbers, but I've got 4 Permafrosts, 2 Annihilates, 4 Lightning Storms, which this deck actually performs pretty well against like weenie type decks, simply because you're playing 4 Lightning Storms, a whole bunch of early game removal, and some Harsh Wolves. But you just need to draw those. The cases where I lose against those decks is where I don't see those cards. And we've got some Vanquishes in here. So that's all of the cards. The mana base is exactly what you would probably expect, just a whole ton of mana fixing and 4 Seek Powers. This deck does need a lot of lands because it's a combo deck in 3 colors. So